So this is the build video for this truck. All you're going to need is a screwdriver, a 920 kV motor with a 16/20 bulk pattern on the back, a 9 gram servo, a paper clip, and a ton of M3 bolts. And that's it. So let's get going. So the first thing you need to do is take the leaf springs, which you've printed, 2 of them, and screw them into the holes in the axle which you've already cut out. I recommend printing this the other way round on the printer, and then in this bit, then most of the important bits saves most filament. So to make the front hub assembly, you're going to need this part, which is called front hub on design, and that has you need to put 2 bolts or up to 10 bolts in it. You're going to need this component, you're going to need your front axle, and then you're also going to need these 2 components. So what these 2 bits do, so if you place the hub like that, these go like this over the hub, and then these mean that the steering can articulate. So you need to flip these on your slicer program to make it to work. Or so you need to print 2 of one orientation and 2 of the other orientation. Then you need to screw these together with a short M3 bolt. I think this is about 6mm, and that's about right. So you want to go through. This only a 2.9mm hole, so when you obviously screw it through, it'll make a thread. Once you've screwed the first side in, you need to go and put that into your front axle. So you see there's a hole in there. Make sure you've cleaned that out nicely, and put the pin, which is about 8mm, that needs to sit in the hole like this, and it should be able to rotate freely. If it doesn't rotate freely, you need to take out and clean it. Then you take this component, which is what we need to put 2 20mm bolts in that, and put that over the top mount, push it down and take those on like that, and that needs to screw into the top of the axle mount, which is under there. So once you've screwed them in, be careful not to de-thread them by going too fast. You have the front axle done, so you just do that on both sides. So once that's complete, this is what the hub assembly should look like, and it should be able to rotate freely like that. It might be a bit stiff, but that will wear off in the end. Next, you need to take these 2 components. You need to be careful because the back ones are slightly longer. If you compare these to the ones on the back ones are just ever so slightly longer, and if you put the front ones on the back, it won't work properly because you'll always have the front of the axle will always be lower. So this needs to go in the front. You need to put 2 bolts for the most forward hole in the chassis, and then you have to put your one on the other side as well, and then they go through the leaf springs which are mounted on the axle. So this is the next component you need to take. You only need 3 bolts for this, because this one is not necessary on the build, which I'm giving away for free on Thingiverse. So this mounts through this hole here and this hole here, and it will go on like this way around. Make sure you get the right way around, and you just need to bolt that through the axle, put one on the other side as well, and that will hold the front suspension on fully. The front half of the truck done. So we've got the suspension which works, which is the leaf springs, and the steering mounted. But all we need to do now is take the steering beam and bolt that through the hole on the top of here with a 3mm bolt again. So once you've built it, this is how it should look. So you should have the servo on this side. You see it has the proper mounting hole for it, and it should bolt in on either side. So you need to have the servo horn obviously pointing upwards. This should sit, the servo beam should sit under the curved part of the servo. Then the servo horn other side should be over there to give it lots of leverage. And so obviously you should repeat this front suspension part on both sides, and that is the front. That is the whole front section done pretty much, except from now moving on to the motor. So the motor, you need to put 2 bolts through the back of the chassis here, and they go into the 16mm gap, and you there's a hole indented into the chassis for the middle part servo. But I removed the circlip which holds it on there, so it's removable. Then you need to take this bit, which is the motor support, and you just need to bolt the bolt through this side here. There's a hole above the servo. You need to bolt this hole through there, through the side piece of there, and that will sit pretty much level once you've got the prop shaft in. So this part is called the main shaft on the model. So that runs through these two holes in the chassis, and they line up obviously, as you can see. And then that runs onto this. This is the secondary gear, which bolts through a hole in both of them. Then it has this back piece, and that needs to be mounted in there, and it obviously all lines up with the motor. So for the frame, if you've watched my other video, see, so you have to take this piece, which goes in the end of the front piece, and it's bolted through twice. Then it's bolted through from the centre chassis piece, that bolts through into there. Moving back, take this short chassis joiner, which bolts through 4 bolts. One of the bolts is hidden inside the centre chassis. I'd recommend probably putting nuts on these 3. And it has this block in the middle to stop it flexing so much. And that's all the chassis assembled, except for moving onto the back. So you have this piece, so make sure you put this the right way round, otherwise the axle will catch on this piece there. So this mounts this way round, and this piece obviously angles when screwed into the axle. So the axle, you can watch my other assembly video to see how that goes together, and the leaf spring can just bolt into the holes. One of the things I'd recommend doing to increase your amount of suspension travel is cutting off the top leaf spring mount, because then that means that you can get a lot more suspension travel. The axle on the back, which I recommend putting lots of grease in over the gears. So this is a 12 to 25 gear reduction. As obviously you can see, that drives the gears like that. And it has this ball mount, which is a constant velocity joint. And you take the 2 prop shafts, halves. One of them goes on here. Just make sure you hold this when you push it on. I'll do the other one because it's a bit easier. So you push these on with these slots going onto the circle, and they clip on like that, and they give you the full range of motion. Make sure to oil these a lot, because these, obviously if you run through water like I've done, they begin to wear, they'll wear themselves out and then overheat. But to join the prop shaft, you want to take this piece, which is the prop shaft joiner, and place a spring on it. I use the Meccano spring, and you want to put that inside. It only goes in two ways, because it's like it's not a box, it's a rectangle. So one side is slightly longer, and place this, push it down until it goes in like that, and that's fully mounted. So you rotate the chassis over now and rotate the gear. The prop shaft does, I haven't got it quite in correctly, but once you get it in correctly it will stay in until you remove it. But the prop shaft does have an issue with wobbling side to side, but just try and remove as little as possible, because you might have to trim this down slightly. So moving on to the wheels, for the back, I recommend printing these with 15% support infill, otherwise they don't come out as nice on the outside edge. Print them in this orientation. So for the tyres, I'll remove the Michelin part for the actual YouTube for your design, so you'll only get ones with ExcellentEngineering put on them. They have this nice tread pattern, this more off-roady tread, and so you want to put the first one on the back this way round, then the second one on this way round, and that gives you the correct width. But for the front, I recommend using these wheels, which are slightly less resistant, but they have less grip, and mount them this way round. This is how the wheels should look. There's the suspension working, and that's the chassis built. So it looks pretty good, and obviously all the functions work as they should do. Obviously the electronics would mount up here while I did it, and use an 18 amp PSC for this. All the printing instructions will be on Thingiverse. But I hope you enjoy building it if you decide to build it, And obviously, if you have any questions about how you want to build yours, or if you want to modify it slightly, just leave a comment on Thingiverse or on YouTube.